Suan Ching, widely recognized as the prettiest girl on campus, came over to take Lin Mo's seat. In the middle of the argument, she kicked him and somehow sent him flying. The instant Lin Mo slammed hard to the floor, the entire classroom fell silent. Suan Ching herself was so frightened that she burst into tears. What she did not know was that the moment Lin Mo lost consciousness, the coma god of wealth system inside him officially activated. The rule of the system was extremely simple. The longer Lin Mo remained unconscious, the more wealth the system would reward him. A teacher quickly arrived at the classroom. Once he understood what had happened, his face darkened immediately. That was way out of line. There are plenty of empty seats in this classroom. Why did you have to fight him over this one? Suan Ching lowered her head in shame, tears streaming down her face. Teacher, I know I was wrong. What do we do now? The teacher immediately called an ambulance and notified the school administration. Then he pointed at Suan Ching. You're going to the hospital with him. Until he fully recovers. You're responsible for this. Suan Ching's eyes widened as she pointed at herself. I'm responsible? She felt horribly wronged. How had she gotten herself into a mess like this? But she was the one who had caused it. So she had no choice but to follow the ambulance to the hospital. After examining Lin Mo, the doctor said he was only in a mild coma and should wake up later that day after the 4 was finished. Suan Ching finally breathed a sigh of relief. After checking his identity information, a nurse asked, "Can you contact his family? Some of the follow-up treatment needs family authorization." A school administrator immediately called Lin Mo's emergency contact. His parents were in another province and could not get there right away, so they first authorized the school by phone to assist with the emergency treatment. Suan Ching voluntarily signed a statement describing the accident and paid the initial emergency examination fees herself. Before leaving, the school administrator repeatedly reminded her, "Stay here and take care of him. I still have other things to deal with." Suan Ching stomped her foot in frustration. She complained, but her conscience would not let her simply abandon Lin Mo in the hospital. She had no choice but to walk back into the room. Seeing Lin Mo lying there completely motionless, she muttered under her breath, "Why aren't you awake yet? It's not like I kicked you on purpose. You were being stubborn too. Come on, wake up already. I still have to go back to school." She had no idea that although Lin Mo could not open his eyes, the system allowed him to sense what was happening around him. Sensing her sitting beside him with a miserable expression, Lin Mo even felt a small, mischievous sense of revenge. She had kicked him into the hospital. Let her worry a little longer. Before long, Suan Ching began yawning. She only meant to close her eyes for a few minutes, but she ended up falling asleep with her head resting beside Lin Mo's bed. Half an hour later, a nurse came over and woke her. "Move aside for a moment. I need to check the patient's temperature and heart rate." Still half asleep, Suan Ching nodded. As the nurse examined Lin Mo, she could not help asking, "What exactly did you do to him? How did you manage to knock someone out this badly?" Suan Ching lowered her head and answered quietly, "We just got into an argument over a seat." The nurse shook her head. "No matter what happened, you shouldn't have gotten physical. We see plenty of cases like this in the hospital. Some people end up paying an enormous amount in compensation." Suan Ching woke up instantly. "That much? My family doesn't even make that much in a year." The nurse continued, "If it's just a normal injury, that's one thing. If there's brain damage or some kind of permanent aftereffect, that's when it gets serious." 10 minutes later, however, the examination results only made the nurse more confused. Lin Mo's vital signs were basically normal, other than a slightly elevated temperature. Almost nothing seemed wrong with him. By all logic, he should have been awake already. The nurse even pressed firmly on the pressure point beneath Lin Mo's nose. An ordinary person would have woken from the pain, but the system blocked Lin Mo's pain response. He still did not react at all. The nurse could only reassure Suan Ching, "Don't worry too much. A specialist will come by this afternoon." With permission from Lin Mo's parents in the school, the hospital turned the rare case into an anonymous academic livestream, withholding his name and personal information in hopes of gathering opinions from more medical experts. That afternoon, a senior doctor who was very well known online arrived at the ward with his team. After a long examination, he too found the situation unbelievable. All of his physical indicators are normal. Why won't he wake up? The case had already attracted attention online, and a huge crowd had gathered in the live stream. Some viewers even started making bets. "He'll definitely wake up within 10 minutes. The famous doctor checked Lin Mo's pulse. pupils, and basic neurological reflexes. Then he confidently announced to the camera, "Based on the tests we have so far, this looks more like a disorder of consciousness than structural damage. We can first try neurological stimulation within a safe range and see whether it triggers an arousal response." Su Wanqing stood in the corner, full of hope. The doctor pressed hard under Lin Mo's nose again. Lin Mo's brow did twitch slightly, almost like a faint reflex. The doctor immediately thought he was onto something. But after 10 straight minutes of trying, Lin Mo remained completely still. Sweat covered the doctor's forehead. More and more people were watching the live stream, and he was clearly beginning to feel the pressure. In the end, he decided to try electrical stimulation. The hospital administrator warned him not to overdo it, but the doctor snapped, "We'll do one more standard round of stimulation. If there is still no response, we'll stop." The doctor switched to low-intensity neurostimulation and observed Lin Mo's reflexes. His muscles visibly contracted with the current, then quickly went still again. Once, twice, 3 times. Still nothing. 15 minutes later, the doctor still could not produce an effective awakening response. He had no choice but to stop the stimulation for the time being and leave the ward looking deeply frustrated. The hospital immediately ended the academic live stream for the day. Su Wanqing looked at Lin Mo helplessly. "What are you made of? You actually managed to stump a doctor at that level." The video went viral almost immediately. Unwilling to accept defeat, the famous doctor called his own mentor for help. His mentor was a medical expert in his 70s. After hearing the case, the old expert concluded, "External stimulation may not work. Start with medication and gradually adjust the dosage." Su Wanqing decided not to go back to school at all that day and stayed at the hospital. Several of her friends came to visit, including Gu Qian, the classmate she was closest to. Gu Qian frowned and tried to persuade her. "Why don't you just leave? Whether he makes it or not has nothing to do with you anymore." Su Wanqing shook her head. "I'm the one who did this to him. If I run away now, I'll never be able to live with myself." Lin Mo's roommates also came to the hospital and warned her directly, "If you're willing to take responsibility, we'll help too. But if you try to run, we'll make sure everyone knows exactly what happened." Su Wanqing gritted her teeth. "Don't worry, I'm not the kind of person who causes a disaster and then runs away." The doctors prescribed a large number of medications. When the nurse brought over the bill, Su Wanqing's face went pale. Gu Qian looked at the amount and could not help complaining toward Lin Mo's bed. "You are seriously our worst nightmare." The others started complaining too. At this rate, the medical expenses looked like a bottomless pit. Lin Mo's roommates, however, did not hesitate. They immediately pooled their money together. Watching his friends run around trying to help him, Lin Mo felt deeply moved. That first night, his best friend sat beside the bed and said, "Brother, this is about all I can do for now. Tomorrow I'll get to the bottom of everything. I'm not letting that girl dump all the responsibility on someone else when this is over." Meanwhile, Lin Mo's case kept getting more and more attention online. Everyone was waiting to see when he would finally wake up. Su Wanqing was hit with a flood of online abuse. The school was dragged into the public controversy as well. The school eventually notified Su Wanqing's parents. When her father learned what had happened, he was furious. "How could you be so impulsive? If you're the one who made the mistake, then you have to take responsibility all the way to the end." Her mother cried as she tried to calm him down. "Don't just yell at her. If it really takes money, then we'll sell whatever we have to sell to save him. We can't throw away our conscience." In the end, her father really did sell the family car and handed the money to his daughter. "Take it. You caused this, so you're going to see it through." Su Wanqing looked at the money and could not stop herself from crying. Her parents later came to the hospital to stay with her and arranged a long leave of absence from school on her behalf. Su Wanqing also made a public statement online saying that she would not avoid responsibility. Gradually, the outrage began to settle down. One night, Su Wanqing looked at Lin Mo in the hospital bed and said in frustration, "Happy now? Are you secretly enjoying all this?" At that exact moment, the system informed Lin Mo that his account balance had risen to a new figure. More importantly, the system's true reward mechanism finally appeared. For every additional day he remained unconscious, 1 0 would be added to the reward. Today, 1,000. Tomorrow, 10,000. The day after tomorrow, 100,000. The day after that, 1 million. Lin Mo became instantly alert, mentally alert. At least, his body remained completely motionless. And after seeing that Su Wanqing could have left but kept coming back to care for him, his impression of her kept improving. Lin Mo suddenly realized that he had an extremely good reason to remain unconscious. Over the next 3 days, while the doctors tried one medication after another, the balance in Lin Mo's account shot upward like a rocket. Then, on the 5th day, Lin Mo suddenly developed a high fever. Su Wanqing panicked and ran to find a doctor. The hospital director personally came to examine him. By then, Su Wanqing had completely let go of her initial resentment. She personally handled almost all of Lin Mo's feeding, cleaning, and daily care. Even when some of the tasks were embarrassing, she never ran away from them. With authorization from his family, the hospital opened another anonymous live stream of the case. The patient's fever has not gone down, and he still has not regained consciousness. The situation is dangerous. We will continue treatment. People online immediately started arguing again. Some accused the doctors of being incompetent. Others questioned the elderly expert's ability. Under growing pressure, the doctor finally said, "Everyone, stop arguing. I'll ask my mentor to come here personally." A few hours later, the 78-year-old medical expert arrived at the hospital himself. An online streamer saw the old man walking in with a cane and immediately went live in excitement. "Guys, I think that's the legendary old doctor." The internet exploded. It really is him. That man has practiced medicine for so many years. Death probably crosses the street when he sees him coming. Someone even made a dramatic bet. If even he can't wake this guy up, I'll do something ridiculous on livestream. The old expert first reviewed all the imaging results, then checked Lin Mo's pulse, pupils, and neurological reflexes. The entire room became unnervingly quiet. After only a few seconds, his expression grew more and more serious. Then, suddenly, he released Lin Mo's hand as if startled and even stumbled backward a step. Someone beside him quickly caught him. "Professor, what's wrong?" The old man's voice trembled. "I've practiced medicine for decades, and I have rarely seen a patient whose vital signs are normal while his conscious reflexes are almost completely cut off." The hospital director pressed him. "What exactly is going on?" The old expert fell silent for a moment before saying something that frightened everyone in the room. "His cardiopulmonary circulation and basic neurological activity are functioning normally, but his conscious reflexes seem completely isolated. I cannot find a pattern that can be explained by an ordinary coma." Everyone's expression changed. Stable vital signs with no identifiable cause for the coma were, in some ways, even more difficult than a clearly diagnosed illness. Su Wanqing completely panicked. She even began wondering whether that kick had somehow caused brain damage that no test could detect. Yet Lin Mo's body was still warm. A doctor asked, "Is there anything else we can do?" The old expert shook his head. "For now, I can't think of any standard medication that would be more effective. If his condition continues to deteriorate, we'll have to consider invasive intracranial monitoring, or even further neurosurgical exploration. But at my age, I no longer perform procedures that high risk. You'll need one of the best neurosurgical teams in the country." Everyone fell silent. The old expert said he knew a top surgeon and could try to contact him, but the man would not be able to arrive for at least 3 days. While they waited for the specialist, the doctors proposed an even riskier awakening treatment. There was an extremely expensive drug used overseas only under strict clinical indications. It could stimulate the central nervous system, but the effectiveness was uncertain, and it could cause side effects such as dangerously high fever. The family therefore had to give informed consent. Su Wanqing asked nervously, "How much does it cost?" The doctor told her, "Several 100,000 yuan per injection. A full course can require up to 5 doses, and that doesn't include the follow-up monitoring." The total cost was nearly equal to all the savings Su Wanqing's parents had raised after selling their car. Su Wanqing remained silent for 10 seconds. Then she handed over her bank card, though the hospital did not administer the drug immediately. "If Lin Mo's parents agree, use it. If it can save him, don't let money be the reason we wait." Lin Mo's parents later completed the informed consent process by video, and only then did the hospital officially begin the treatment. This girl was not only beautiful, she truly had a good heart. Even Lin Mo's heart rate rose a little as he lay in bed. She was actually willing to put nearly everything her family could afford on the line just to save him. The hospital immediately arranged transport for the special medication. Clips of the anonymous case's treatment progress were soon reposted by online media accounts from the public livestream. and public attention exploded all over again. Then it exploded all over again. I heard one injection costs an insane amount. Who's paying for it? Still that girl. Her parents even sold their car. Gu Qian was furious with her. Have you lost your mind? You're really throwing all that money into this? Su Wanqing answered calmly. If spending this money means I can live with myself afterward, then it's worth it. That night, she sat beside the bed and slowly fed Lin Mo soup one spoonful at a time. Please, open your eyes. I'm almost losing everything trying to save you. Hearing her gentle voice, Lin Mo nearly woke up for real. But at that exact moment, the system issued a warning. If he voluntarily ended the system maintained coma now, all the rewards he had accumulated would be reset to zero. His chance to become unimaginably wealthy would disappear for good. Lin Mo immediately forced down his emotions. Keep lying there. Su Wanqing wiped his face clean and, before leaving, turned back to look at him one more time. In that moment, Lin Mo truly felt his heart move. Late that night, the expensive medication arrived at the hospital. The first injection entered Lin Mo's body. No response. His temperature rose instead. The second injection. Still no response. The doctors were completely stunned. Then midnight arrived. The system settled another round of rewards. A huge new sum appeared in Lin Mo's account. His net worth was now racing from the hundreds of millions into the billions and tens of billions of yuan. Meanwhile, Su Wanqing sat beside him crying so hard she could barely breathe. Lin Mo could not bear it anymore, so he asked the system for help. To his surprise, the system gave him an absurd new ability. He could enter her dreams. That night, Su Wanqing dreamed that Lin Mo had woken up. In the dream, he owned luxury cars, mansions, and more money than he could ever spend. He took her to eat the finest food and let her live a life of unbelievable luxury. When she woke up, however, Lin Mo was still lying in the hospital bed without the slightest response. She could not help thinking, if only that dream were real. The next day, news that Lin Mo still had not woken up continued trending online. People even started joking about it. This guy isn't unable to wake up. He's refusing to wake up. Gu Qian called Su Wanqing again. How long are you planning to keep taking care of him? Su Wanqing answered helplessly. I don't know either. Gu Qian finally lost her temper. You're ruining your own life. Don't contact me anymore. Starting today, let's pretend we never knew each other. The call ended. Su Wanqing stood there in a daze. Because of Lin Mo, she and Gu Qian had completely fallen out. The doctors gave Lin Mo another dose of the special medication. The third injection still had no effect at all. The doctors were beginning to question everything they knew. If the awakening treatment continued to fail, the only remaining options would be invasive intracranial monitoring and possibly further neurosurgical exploration. The hospital director asked Su Wanqing, "Do you still have money?" She nodded. "I'll find a way." She immediately called her father. "Dad, I still need more money." Her father replied, "I'll get it to you this afternoon. The mortgage loan on the house has already been approved. Don't worry." Su Wanqing burst into tears. Back in the hospital room, she finally broke down completely, leaning over beside Lin Mo and sobbing. "If the surgery fails, if you really die, I don't even know how I'm supposed to live after that. Just consider it something I owed you from another lifetime." Hearing this, Lin Mo's heart completely softened. For his sake, she had already dragged her entire family into financial trouble. Not everyone would ever meet someone willing to do that for them. Over the next few days, Lin Mo's fever kept returning, at one point reaching 40 degrees Celsius. The nurses constantly applied ice packs while Su Wanqing stayed beside him day and night. For Lin Mo, however, those 3 days were a golden period of explosive wealth growth. His net worth shot from the 100 million level straight into the ranks of the ultra-rich. But Lin Mo still was not satisfied. He wanted to stay down longer. Then the hospital received news that Chinese and American medical teams would soon hold a major academic exchange in Shanghai. Several internationally renowned specialists would be attending. The doctors thought it might be their last chance. Perhaps those experts could understand Lin Mo's bizarre state of unconsciousness. Hope returned to Su Wanqing. With his family's consent, the hospital decided to transfer Lin Mo to Shanghai for a joint consultation. Once the news leaked, the internet erupted again. They're finally letting foreign experts treat him. He's definitely waking up this time. Many people even began praising foreign medical technology, insisting it had to be far better than what local doctors could provide. The plane arrived in Shanghai. It was the first flight of Lin Mo's life. Of course, he spent the entire trip lying on a medical transport stretcher. When they reached the hospital, the medical exchange was already being broadcast publicly as an academic live stream. The international expert team had brought a wide range of advanced equipment. The team leader was a doctor named Stephen. The first 2 patients they treated had both shown excellent results. Finally, it was Lin Mo's turn. The hospital director said, "Dr. Stephen, this is our most difficult case." Stephen began the examination. The entire foreign expert team gathered around Lin Mo. The live stream comments went wild. "This is definitely going to work. He's waking up today." Lin Mo was taken into a high-tech examination room. One machine after another scanned his body. The equipment not only performed imaging and measurements, but also used AI-assisted analysis. The viewers could barely keep up with everything appearing on the screens. After the 3rd scan, Stephen stared at the monitor and his expression suddenly changed. Half an hour later, he came back out. The hospital director immediately asked, "What did you find?" Stephen shook his head. Su Wanqing's heart sank instantly. They had come all this way looking for one last thread of hope. Then Stephen said, "According to our equipment, we cannot identify any clear organic lesion in this patient." Everyone froze. No identifiable physical lesion? Then why had he been unconscious for so long? Stephen looked helpless as well. The machine simply could not explain Lin Mo's condition. In the end, the team could only give an almost embarrassingly vague conclusion. No identifiable disease. The international medical exchange failed to solve the mystery too. All the people who had been loudly claiming that foreign experts would definitely succeed suddenly went quiet. Even a world-class international medical team could not explain Lin Mo's abnormal condition. The only remaining option was to have one of China's top neurosurgical teams evaluate him for invasive intracranial monitoring. The surgeon they contacted had almost never experienced a failure in his entire career. He had already begun studying where to make the smallest possible incision and where to place the monitoring electrodes. Lin Mo's roommates came to see him as well. One stood beside the bed and said, "Brother, just wake up. I'll cover the drinks, barbecue, and any entertainment you want. All of it." Lying there, Lin Mo nearly laughed. Meanwhile, his wealth continued to grow, but his temperature climbed back to 40 degrees Celsius, making an invasive procedure increasingly dangerous. The top neurosurgeon in charge of the consultation was called back to the hospital in the middle of the night. He had a terrible temper, but he was also extraordinarily serious and responsible about his work. After an intense round of emergency treatment, Lin Mo's temperature finally came down. Su Wanqing had barely slept for days. Once she confirmed that Lin Mo was temporarily stable, she became so exhausted that she collapsed onto the floor of the hospital room and fell asleep right there. And of all times, that was when Gu Qian appeared. Gu Qian, who had already broken off her friendship with Su Wanqing, walked into the ward arm in arm with a wealthy boyfriend. The moment she saw Su Wanqing looking exhausted and worn down, she immediately sneered. "Well, look who it is. The famous campus beauty. What happened to you? You look awful." Su Wanqing forced down her anger. "Why are you here?" Gu Qian deliberately showed off the man beside her. "Take a good look. This is my boyfriend. His net worth is over 10 billion yuan. He's 1,000 times better than that useless guy lying in your bed." Su Wanqing frowned. "Why are you always coming after me?" Gu Qian finally revealed the real reason. "All 4 years of college, you were always just a little better than me. Every exam, your score was a little higher. Everyone thought you were beautiful and talented. I acted like your friend, but I never accepted it inside. I've been jealous of you for years." Su Wanqing answered helplessly. "I never tried to compete with you. I was just living my own life and doing my best. If you came here just to laugh at me, then say whatever you want, but don't expect me to fall apart in front of you." Gu Qian gave a cold laugh. "That boyfriend of yours is worthless. Go ahead and spend the rest of your life taking care of this vegetable. As far as I'm concerned, you'll always be a loser." With that, she linked arms with her rich boyfriend and walked away. Lin Mo lay there so angry he nearly got up just to punch her. After they left, Su Wanqing finally cried. "I never tried to outdo her. I really thought she was my friend. I guess once someone decides to hate you, everything you do becomes wrong in their eyes." Lin Mo felt terrible hearing that. Then his physical condition deteriorated again. His fever shot back up to 40 degrees Celsius. The doctors worked on him for an entire day. By evening, his temperature finally came down. The top neurosurgeon immediately announced, Prepare for intracranial monitoring. The others urged him to wait until the next day. But he shouted, "If we wait any longer, I'm going to lose my mind." The sterile field and monitoring equipment were fully prepared. Lin Mo was wheeled into the operating room. There were only 2 minutes left until midnight. Lin Mo was even more nervous than the doctors. Not because he was afraid of the procedure, because if he could just hold on for 2 more minutes, the next round of system wealth would arrive. The surgeon was already prepared to open Lin Mo's scalp and place the monitoring electrodes. Then, at that exact moment, the main monitoring device in the operating room suddenly threw an error and had to restart its self-diagnostic sequence. The surgical team immediately paused the next step. They switched to the backup monitoring equipment. Then, as if that were not enough, one set of sterile instruments had to be replaced. The surgeon responsible for the procedure became so anxious his face turned red. 1 second. 2 seconds. At last, midnight arrived. The system notification sounded. System notification. Lin Mo's legally available assets had officially reached the equivalent of approximately 10 trillion renminbi. The system then told him that he could wake up now. However, to avoid suspicion, he would have to pretend to suffer serious aftereffects and recover gradually. At the same time, the surgeon's instrument was already touching Lin Mo's scalp. At the very last second, Lin Mo slowly opened one eye. Everyone in the operating room nearly jumped at the sudden movement. The doctor stared at him. You're awake?" Lin Mo gave a weak nod. The neurosurgeon released a long breath. Thank God. Thank God." A few seconds later and we would have started the invasive procedure. When Su Wanqing heard that Lin Mo had woken up, she burst into tears. She stood beside his bed and almost refused to leave, afraid the entire thing might turn out to be a dream. After everything that had happened, her previously aloof personality changed completely. She became so gentle with Lin Mo that she seemed like a different person. Once the doctors confirmed that his vital signs were stable, several of the physicians who had treated him began half-jokingly arguing over which one of their methods had actually worked. One shouted, "See that? My treatment woke him up." Another immediately got angry. "Give me a break. I haven't slept in 2 days. And now you're trying to steal the credit?" "It was obviously my treatment," the experts argued until their faces were red, and the hospital director had to step in, half laughing and half exasperated, to separate them. It took everyone quite a while to pull them apart. Meanwhile, a nurse had already posted the news of Lin Mo's awakening online. The internet exploded again. The moment his roommates heard, they ran to the hospital in the middle of the night wearing slippers. When they saw him, they shouted excitedly, "Brother, you're actually alive. We were already pooling money for your coffin." Another roommate added, "We almost had enough for the burial plot too. We were going to make sure you had somewhere to stay even after you died. Get lost. Can you two say one normal thing?" Everyone crowded around Lin Mo laughing, looking at his friends with messy hair and slippers. Having rushed over in the middle of the night, Lin Mo felt something clearly for the first time. Sometimes it took nearly dying to learn who truly cared about you. Su Wanqing stood nearby. By then, the closeness between them already looked a lot like a romantic relationship. His roommates immediately started teasing them, and Su Wanqing's face turned red. All right, go back and sleep. I can take care of him here." The next day, the hospital assigned another nurse to help care for Lin Mo. News that he had awakened had become one of the biggest topics on the internet. The school was in an uproar too. The teachers who had been dealing with the accident, liability, and public opinion finally breathed a sigh of relief. Students applauded and celebrated. But Gu Qian, who had always been jealous of Su Wanqing, was furious inside. Later, some classmates suggested organizing donations for Lin Mo and Su Wanqing. Everyone knew that Su Wanqing's family had nearly emptied everything they had trying to save him. But Su Wanqing refused. "Thank you, everyone. I still have a little money left." Gu Qian made more sarcastic remarks from the side, but Su Wanqing ignored her. That afternoon, a group of teachers and students came to visit Lin Mo. Flowers and fruit filled the room. Lin Mo struggled to say one sentence. "Thank you." Everyone immediately applauded. The doctors started another live stream. Within only 10 minutes, the audience passed 1 million viewers. People online even started asking, "Does he need donations? Start a fundraiser for him." The doctors asked Lin Mo whether he wanted to accept public donations. Lin Mo shook his head without hesitation. "What a joke. A man with assets worth the equivalent of roughly 10 trillion renminbi obviously was not short on medical expenses. No one else knew that yet. Of course, the doctors, eager to get on camera, kept crowding toward the live stream one after another. Lin Mo had effectively become guaranteed viral content. At that moment, the system issued another task. In reality, Lin Mo could have recovered immediately after waking up, but the system gave him two choices. First, recover normally. Second, extend the recovery period and improve his appearance at the same time. Stay in recovery 10 extra days, and his looks would improve by 10%. Stay 20 extra days, and they would improve by 20%. Lin Mo chose 20 days without hesitation. He already had the money. Naturally, the next step was to become more handsome too. The system warned him. During these 20 days, your face may become badly swollen as part of the recovery process. People may make fun of you. Lin Mo did not care at all. If a little humiliation now meant becoming ridiculously handsome later, what did it matter? 3 days later, Lin Mo was discharged from the hospital. He still appeared physically weak, and his face was dramatically swollen because of the recovery period. Lin Mo sat in a wheelchair while Su Wanqing pushed him out of the hospital. She asked, "Where are we going now?" Lin Mo said, "Let's rent an apartment. I still have to take medicine every day. Staying in the dorm isn't convenient." Su Wanqing took out her bank card and stared worriedly at the balance. "After paying the hospital bills, I really don't have much left." Lin Mo smiled. "I'll pay the rent." She froze. "Where did you get money?" Lin Mo took out a bank card. "Let's try an ATM first." She looked suspicious, but still pushed him over to one. Lin Mo told her the PIN and asked her to withdraw some money for living expenses. When she entered the amount, the ATM displayed a notice indicating that the card had special withdrawal privileges far beyond those of an ordinary account. She assumed the machine was malfunctioning and tried a much larger withdrawal. The ATM completed the transaction normally. She stared at it in disbelief. Then she checked the available withdrawal limit again. The screen displayed only one message: sufficient authorization. Compared with her own nearly empty bank account, the result left her completely dumbfounded. She hurried back to Lin Mo. "How much money is actually on this card?" Lin Mo answered calmly. "Withdraw as much as you want. I may not be impressive in every area, but when it comes to money, I'm doing just fine." She rolled her eyes. Clearly she was not going to get a real answer out of him, so she decided she could figure it out later. In the end, the two of them found a rental apartment that was accessible for a wheelchair. Su Wanqing began preparing his medicine for him. She walked in carrying a bowl of dark herbal medicine. Lin Mo took one smell and wrinkled his nose. "That smells awful." She laughed. "Medicine is supposed to taste bad." Lin Mo immediately started acting helpless. "Feed me. My arms and legs are still weak." She complained. "You were much easier to deal with when you were unconscious. Why are you so demanding now that you're awake? Get better already. I still have to go back to class." Lin Mo looked at her. "You've worked hard these past few weeks." She paused. Then Lin Mo suddenly said, "Actually, even though I was unconscious, I was aware the whole time. I heard almost everything you said, including the part where you cried and said you wouldn't know how to live if I died." Su Wanqing's face instantly turned bright red. "You're lying. When did I ever say that?" Lin Mo gave her a teasing smile. "Fine. Maybe I heard wrong." She stomped her foot in embarrassment. "I'm done talking to you. Finish your medicine." She stormed out. But once she was outside the room, she leaned against the wall and stood there for a long time. At last, she secretly wiped away a tear. It was not a tear of hurt. It was the relief of finally knowing that someone understood everything she had sacrificed. What she did not know was that the person in the entire world who understood those days best was Lin Mo himself. Not long after she returned to school, however, the police asked her to come in and help verify an unusual cash withdrawal. The news spread across campus almost instantly. The reason was simple. Su Wanqing had used Lin Mo's bank card to complete a cash withdrawal far larger than what would normally be expected from a student account. The local branch's risk control system had also discovered that the card's authorization level could not be viewed through ordinary systems. Staff mistakenly suspected an unauthorized transaction, a cloned card, or an internal permissions anomaly, and reported the matter to police. Students immediately started gossiping. Some refused to believe Su Wanqing would steal money from a bank card, but her rival immediately started making pointed comments. How could she not be desperate for money? Her family practically went broke paying that man's medical bills. One of Lin Mo's roommates slammed his hand on a desk. Show some evidence before you accuse her of anything. But the other side only became more vicious. They insulted Su Wanqing, saying she was so broke she might do anything for money. They also mocked Lin Mo, whose face was still badly swollen after discharge. At this point, she's probably the only person willing to take care of that ugly mess. Meanwhile, at the police station, Su Wanqing insisted, "I didn't steal anything. Lin Mo gave me the card himself. The ATM approved the transaction on its own." The officer had not accused her of a crime. He was simply continuing the verification process. "The authorization on this transaction is unusual. We need to confirm whether the cardholder approved it. Can you contact him?" She nodded immediately, though she worried that Lin Mo, who had only just left the hospital, would now be dragged into another round of questioning. Even at that point, she never once suspected him. She assumed something must be wrong with the bank system. Her father rushed to the station too. "No matter how badly our family needs money, we can't touch money that doesn't belong to us." What exactly happened? Feeling wronged and overwhelmed, Su Wanqing could only repeat, "I really didn't do anything." Lin Mo soon heard what had happened. The moment he learned that Su Wanqing had been taken in for questioning because of his bank card, his expression turned cold. The police also called Lin Mo and asked him to confirm whether he had authorized the withdrawal. Lin Mo almost laughed. There was a problem with the card? They could not even imagine that the card was linked to a massive pool of assets that had already been legally structured and allocated by the system. What made him even angrier was that Su Wanqing, trying to keep him from being repeatedly questioned so soon after leaving the hospital, was apparently attempting to describe everything as if the decisions had been hers alone. Lin Mo dialed a number. When senior executives at the bank saw who was calling, they nearly jumped out of their chairs. The ultra-high net worth client controlling 10 trillion renminbi in assets was calling them personally. Lin Mo said coldly, "A friend of mine withdrew a little money from my card. Your people got her sent to a police station. Handle it." The senior bank executive immediately broke into a cold sweat. To the bank, Lin Mo was not an ordinary client. He was practically a walking treasury. "Sir, please rest assured, I'll handle this immediately. Nothing will happen to her." Lin Mo gave only one response. "It had better not. Otherwise, deal with the consequences yourselves." The call ended. Within 5 minutes, the bank's top executives had all been summoned into a conference room. When they learned that a local branch had dragged the friend of a super VIP client into a police investigation without first verifying the special authorization with headquarters, every face in the room changed. Headquarters issued an immediate order. "Inform the police at once that this was a false alert from our own risk control system, and send someone there to issue a formal apology." The local branch manager's expression changed as soon as he heard the client's classification. "Who called the police?" A female manager slowly raised a trembling hand. I thought she might be using a system vulnerability to make an unauthorized withdrawal." The branch head exploded. "Are you out of your mind? Withdraw the risk report immediately and submit a full written explanation to the police. If the process review confirms that you skipped required verification, be prepared for internal disciplinary action." Meanwhile, rumors that Su Wanqing had committed a crime were still spreading around the university. Gu Qian continued to enjoy every second of it. At the police station, Su Wanqing was completing her final statement and still trying to take all responsibility for the transaction herself. The officer handed her the written record. "If everything here is accurate, sign it. Until the bank finishes verifying the account permissions, you may still need to cooperate with further investigation." Her hand shook as she held the pen. Tears were already falling, yet she still prepared to sign a statement that was clearly unfavorable to her. She had already decided that even if she had to shoulder the consequences herself, she did not want Lin Mo, who had only just left the hospital, to be dragged back into another ordeal. She had written only half her name when the phone rang. The officer taking the statement answered. His expression changed instantly. He quickly took the document back from Su Wanqing. After confirming that bank headquarters had officially explained the situation, he visibly relaxed. A false risk alert had nearly turned into a much larger misunderstanding. Su Wanqing, however, looked confused. "Don't I still have to sign it?" The officer quickly said. "No. The bank's headquarters has confirmed that the account has special authorization privileges, and they've withdrawn the risk report. The cardholder authorized the withdrawal. No crime occurred. You're free to leave. You can go now." Su Wanqing stood there for several seconds without reacting. One moment she had been afraid she would be treated as a suspect in a stolen card case. The next, she was being told that it had all been a false bank alert. She finally broke down and cried. Outside, her father had been waiting anxiously. He explained the situation to everyone he could find, begging the police to investigate the facts carefully. Please, you have to verify everything. My daughter would never steal someone else's money. Before he could finish, the door opened. Su Wanqing walked out. Dad, I'm okay. Bank employees arrived soon afterward and formally explained the permissions issue to both her and the police. Apologizing in person, neither father nor daughter knew that this was only the beginning of the true power behind that black gold Supreme Bank card. At Donghai Airport, an astonishing reception was already underway. A large number of senior bank executives had arrived in person. Everyone was wondering, what kind of VIP is important enough to bring all these people here? A man in sunglasses with a commanding presence stepped out of the airport. People recognized him immediately. It was Liu Hao, president of Longhui Bank, a financial heavyweight responsible for managing funds on the scale of 18 trillion renminbi. Even more shocking was that the Donghai municipal official responsible for the city's financial affairs had personally come to receive him. The news hit the internet instantly. Someone began live streaming from the scene. Guys, the president of Longhui Bank really came to Donghai. Everyone online began guessing. Was some trillion-yuan project about to be signed? But when the city official asked why he had come, Liu Hao gave only one answer. I'm here for one person, and I'm here to apologize to him. Everyone was stunned. A financial titan at Liu Hao's level was going to personally visit a young client just to apologize? A convoy of luxury vehicles left the airport, yet their destination was not a five-star hotel. It was not a government building either. It was an old rental apartment on an ordinary street. At that moment, Su Wanqing had just returned from the police station. She was exhausted. Lin Mo rolled his wheelchair over to her. Seeing how worn down she looked, he felt terrible. I'm sorry. Because of me, you've suffered far too much. It won't happen again. Trust me. I'll make you the happiest girl in the world. She looked at him. He was still sitting in a wheelchair, his face still swollen. She assumed he was simply trying to comfort her. Her father did not take the words very seriously either. Then, the sharp sound of brakes echoed outside. One luxury car after another filled the entrance to the residential compound. The doors opened. Longhui Bank President Liu Hao and the city official stepped out personally. Su Wanqing instinctively moved in front of Lin Mo. Don't be afraid. I'll protect you. She actually thought these people had come to cause trouble. Nearby residents began leaning out to watch. Everyone wondered whether such a huge procession had somehow come because of Su Wanqing, the university student whose case had been all over the internet. But in the next second, Liu Hao walked straight past Su Wanqing. He hurried to Lin Mo's wheelchair. Then he lowered his head. Sir, I am deeply sorry. I came too late. The entire residential compound fell silent. Everyone nearby stared in disbelief. A man at the very top of the financial world was bowing his head to a young man sitting in a wheelchair with a swollen face. Lin Mo showed no excitement at all. He turned his wheelchair slightly and said coldly, I'm extremely angry right now. Su Wanqing's father was already too shocked to speak. When he learned the identity of the other guests standing nearby, he became even more nervous. These were people he normally saw only on television news. Yet Lin Mo seemed not to care who they were at all. Lin Mo placed the black gold Supreme Bank card on the table. I want to mobilize 10 billion yuan. The single sentence stunned every banker present. The female manager who had originally reported the transaction still could not believe it. How could that card possibly have that much money behind it? Liu Hao spun around and looked at her with an ice-cold expression. Because only he and a handful of people truly knew the truth. Behind that card were assets equivalent to 10 trillion renminbi, held and allocated through globally compliant custodial structures. A client like Lin Mo could influence the fate of a major bank. Lin Mo asked coldly, who reported her to the police? Liu Hao immediately shouted, who did it? Step forward. Sweat covered the branch manager's forehead as he pushed the female manager forward. She was the one who had nearly ruined Su Wanqing. Lin Mo looked at her without the slightest sympathy. If you want me to continue doing business with your bank, then investigate this properly according to your own rules. Pull up the permissions screen she saw, the risk control logs, and the authorization records from headquarters. I want her to explain, point by point and in front of Su Wanqing, Why she reported the matter to police without first verifying the special authorization. Document the entire process. The female manager's face went white. No one tried to smooth things over for her anymore. Under the supervision of headquarters auditors, she had no choice but to go through the records one by one. It quickly became obvious to everyone that there had never been a problem with the car itself. The real problem was that she had skipped the escalation and verification process. The bank later released a public explanation of the investigation. Only then did people online finally understand that Su Wanqing had never broken the law at any point. The female manager was suspended pending investigation for mishandling the situation, misleading the police, and creating serious reputational risk for the bank. A few days later, she received a single formal notice: employment terminated. While the outside world continued arguing about the incident, Lin Mo and Su Wanqing's family experienced a complete reversal in status. The city official later invited Lin Mo to a formal dinner. People whom Su Wanqing's family had once seen only on the news were now extraordinarily polite toward Lin Mo. The official even made a point of inviting Su Wanqing and her father as well. Only yesterday, her father had been on the edge of financial collapse after selling the family car and mortgaging the house to raise money for Lin Mo's treatment. Today, he was an honored guest sitting beside some of the most powerful people in the entire city. At the dinner, someone tried to offer Lin Mo a drink. Because Lin Mo had not fully recovered, Su Wanqing's father immediately stood up. "He can't drink. I'll drink for him." Looking at this middle-aged man, who had once been willing to sell nearly everything he owned to save him and was now able to sit upright and confident among these powerful figures, Lin Mo felt deeply satisfied. Su Wanqing held Lin Mo's hand the entire time. She could hardly believe what she was seeing. She had never imagined that the poor student she had fought so desperately to protect could completely change her family's fate in a single night. At the end of the dinner, Lu Hao shook Lin Mo's hand again, his attitude more deferential than ever. "Sir, from this day forward, Longhui Bank will always stand with you." Lin Mo nodded calmly. "As long as no one comes looking for trouble, I won't go looking for trouble either." On the way back, the city official finally could not resist asking Lu Hao, "How much money does he actually have?" Lu Hao pointed through the window at a major corporation with a market value of roughly 150 billion yuan. "A company that size, with the funds he has under custody and allocation through us and our partner institutions, he could buy several companies of that size without much difficulty." The official stared at him. Lu Hao lowered his voice and mentioned a rumor that had been circulating through global financial circles. At one point, a mysterious fortune worth the equivalent of 10 trillion renminbi had suddenly entered the global financial system through fully legal and compliant channels. Countless people had been trying to identify the mysterious owner. Lu Hao said only one thing: "It's him." The official leaned back in his seat and remained speechless for a long time. He had always thought of himself as an important figure in the city, but compared with Lin Mo, the status he had once been so proud of suddenly felt insignificant. Meanwhile, Lin Mo began truly repaying Su Wanqing and her family. Looking at Su Wanqing, who had spent all this time running from one place to another because of him, he suddenly asked, "Isn't your birthday next month?" She paused, and a faint blush appeared on her face. "Why are you asking? Are you planning to give me a present too?" Lin Mo looked at her tired face and made a decision. This time, he was going to give her the grandest birthday in the world. He wanted the confident, proud campus beauty she had once been to come back. A few days later, Lin Mo began making good on his promises. He directly purchased 2 neighboring mansions in the most expensive residential district in Donghai. One was for himself, the other was a gift for Su Wanqing's parents. The family finally had luxury cars again as well. Then Lin Mo decided to host a class gathering at the villa. After seeing the mansion, Su Wanqing finally regained some of her old confidence. But when the invitation was sent to the class group chat, the response was not congratulations. It was ridicule. Didn't her family almost wipe out all their savings paying compensation and medical expenses? Now she's suddenly inviting everyone to dinner. Is she planning to ask us for money? Are they taking us to some cheap little restaurant? Gu Qian was even more direct. "I'm not wasting my time at some broke person's party. I have a date with my boyfriend." In the end, out of dozens of students in the class, only 12 agreed to attend, including Lin Mo's roommates and a teacher. There were only 18 people total. As they got into taxis, some of them were actually nervous. They genuinely believed that Su Wanqing's family was nearly broke and had no idea what kind of place they were being taken to. Then the taxi stopped at the entrance of the most exclusive luxury residential development in Donghai. Everyone froze. Wait, don't the villas here start at tens of millions of yuan, with some going over 100 million? They walked inside cautiously. Luxurious interiors. A massive private yard. A brand new Ferrari. Everyone stared in disbelief. Finally, someone asked in a trembling voice, "Did your family get rich?" Su Wanqing answered calmly, "It's not my family's. All of this belongs to him." One sentence silenced everyone. Lin Mo's roommate was the first person who could not hold it in. "Holy crap, man, don't tell me the government gave you tens of millions in research compensation for becoming the hardest medical case in the country." They were still making wild guesses when, tap, 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 the sound of a cane striking the floor came from inside the house. Everyone turned. Lin Mo no longer needed the wheelchair. Although the swelling in his face had not completely disappeared and he still looked somewhat ridiculous, he could now stand on his own. Leaning on a cane, he slowly walked out from inside the villa. "Welcome." After a brief silence, the friends who truly cared about him immediately started laughing. "Man, why is your face still swollen like that? You look terrible." They joked about his appearance, but the happiness in their eyes was genuine. That was what real friendship looked like. They did not care how much money Lin Mo had. They did not care how handsome or ugly he looked right now. As long as he was alive, they were honestly happy, and none of them knew that the real spectacle had not even begun yet. Inside the villa, the 18 guests gathered around Lin Mo. His roommates did not treat the place like some untouchable luxury mansion at all. Less than 10 minutes after walking in, they were already studying the wine cabinet in the living room. "Brother, can we drink this?" Lin Mo leaned back on the sofa, his cane resting beside him. "Whatever you want." One roommate picked up a bottle and looked at the label. "I'm really opening it." Then, the housekeeper standing nearby hesitated. "Sir, that bottle currently sells for approximately 420.000 yuan. The room went silent. The roommate's hand trembled. How much?" 420,000 yuan. He immediately put the bottle back and even polished it with his sleeve. "You know what? Water suddenly sounds great." Everyone laughed. For the first time in a long while, Su Wanqing showed a genuinely relaxed smile too. She sat beside Lin Mo and quietly warned him, "Don't waste money." Lin Mo turned toward her. "I haven't even started spending my money yet." "You call this not starting?" She pointed at the sports car outside. Then at the villa worth over 100 million yuan. "Then tell me, what does starting look like?" Lin Mo thought for a moment. "Your birthday, for example." She froze. "You still remember?" "Of course. Let me make something clear first." She stared at him suspiciously. "You are not buying me anything worth tens of millions." "Why not?" "Because I could never pay you back." Lin Mo laughed. "Who asked you to pay me back?" Her ears immediately turned red. "Still no." "Fine." Lin Mo agreed far too easily. That only made her more suspicious. "What are you smiling about?" "Nothing." Lin Mo truly was not planning to buy her anything worth tens of millions, because what he had in mind was far more expensive than that. At that moment, the sound of a car engine came from outside. One of the classmates looked toward the window. "Someone else is coming?" "No way. Weren't we the only people in class who agreed to come?" A few minutes later, 2 people walked into the villa. They were Gu Qian and the boyfriend she claimed had a net worth of more than 10 billion yuan. Gu Qian wore an expensive dress and carried a designer handbag. She smiled the moment she entered. "Looks lively in here." The smile on Su Wanqing's face faded. "I didn't invite you." Gu Qian lightly waved her phone. "The address was in the group chat. It's not exactly a secret. Besides, we're classmates. I figured I'd come see what kind of place you rented so you could pretend to be rich. That's not unreasonable, is it?" One classmate could not help speaking up. "This really is his house." Gu Qian laughed even harder. "You don't seriously believe that, do you?" Her rich boyfriend glanced around the villa too. He was obviously more familiar with luxury real estate than an ordinary student. After only a few looks, his expression became serious. "Is this Yunding number 1? The housekeeper nodded. "Yes." The young man frowned. "Didn't a mysterious buyer purchase the 2 most important residences in Yunding number 1 together last month?" "Correct." The housekeeper answered calmly. "Sir was the buyer." Everyone turned toward Lin Mo. Gu Qian's smile froze for a second, but she quickly sneered again. "So he bought a villa. Big deal. My boyfriend's family is an investment. A single project for them can be worth several billion yuan." People with real money don't act like newly rich show-offs, buying sports cars just to make sure everyone sees them. Lin Mo almost laughed. From the moment she entered, he had not said a single thing against her, yet every sentence she spoke somehow managed to come straight at him. He asked, "What does your boyfriend do?" The young man lifted his chin. Tianjin Capital. Ever heard of it? Several people immediately drew sharp breaths. Tianjin Capital was genuinely famous in China's investment industry. It managed close to 100 billion yuan in assets. The young man's father was one of its major shareholders. No wonder he dared claim a personal net worth above 10 billion. Seeing the classmates' reactions, Gu Qian finally regained her smug expression. Understand the difference now? Some people get a little money overnight and suddenly think they're untouchable. But real old money families are about background, social circles, and resources accumulated over generations. Lin Mo nodded. That makes sense. Gu Qian became even more pleased with herself. At least you have some self-awareness. Su Wanqing angrily started to stand. Lin Mo gently pressed her hand down. Sit. But, you're the host today. If a dog barks at the gate, the owner doesn't go outside and bark back. The entire room struggled not to laugh. Gu Qian's face turned green. Who are you calling a dog? Lin Mo ignored her and looked at her boyfriend instead. Tianjin Capital. Right? What about it? One moment. Lin Mo took out his phone and called Lu Hao directly. Look into Tianjin Capital for me. There was a few seconds of silence on the other end. Sir, are you considering an investment? No. Lin Mo glanced at the man across from him. I want to see what makes them so confident. Lu Hao understood immediately. I'll check right now. The rich young man laughed. Keep pretending. Seriously. Keep going. You think acting important on the phone is going to scare me? Lin Mo did not explain. 3 minutes later, Lu Hao called back. Sir, I found it. Tianjin Capital publicly claims to manage close to 100 billion yuan, but its actual proprietary capital isn't nearly as large as the impression they give. Also, they're currently competing for Huayuan New Energy's private placement project. They've already committed a large amount in deposits and guarantees. If they lose that project, their cash position will become uncomfortable. Lin Mo asked only one question. What's Huayuan New Energy worth? Its current market capitalization is approximately 67 billion yuan. Buy it. The other end of the call went silent. Sir, you mean, buy as much as you can. Get control. And tell Huayuan New Energy one more thing. From now on, Tianjin Capital is not to participate in any core project. No one in the room spoke. The rich young man stared at him for a full 5 seconds, then burst out laughing. Do you even know what a publicly traded company is? You think you're buying vegetables at a market? A company worth 60 or 70 billion. And you think you can just say buy it? Gu Qian laughed so hard tears came to her eyes. I finally understand. He's not rich. He was unconscious so long he must have damaged his brain. Lin Mo's roommates immediately looked angry. One of them was about to curse at her when Lin Mo raised a hand. No rush. Give it a minute. 10 minutes passed. Then 20. Suddenly, the rich young man's phone rang. He looked down. It was his father. The moment he answered, a roar came through the phone. Where are you, Dad? I asked where you are. I'm at a classmate's house. Did you offend someone? The young man froze. No. His father's voice sounded nearly hysterical. Huayuan New Energy just informed us they're suspending negotiations on our core project. Then a mysterious capital account started buying shares like crazy on the secondary market. Several shareholders on the board have already signed share transfer agreements with them. In less than 2 hours, they've acquired close to a controlling position. The color slowly drained from the young man's face. He snapped his head up and stared at Lin Mo. His father was still shouting through the phone. Tell me right now, who did you offend? The other side gave us one message by name. The young man's voice began to shake. What message? They said you'd better learn to watch your mouth. The phone slipped from his hand and hit the floor. The entire living room became so quiet that people could hear each other breathing. Gu Qian was no longer smiling at all. She stared at her boyfriend in disbelief. What did your dad mean? He did not even look at her. He walked straight toward Lin Mo. Every trace of his earlier arrogance was gone. Brother, I think there may have been a misunderstanding just now. Lin Mo smiled. Who exactly is your brother? The man's expression stiffened. Lin Mo looked toward the door. Leave. Gu Qian finally snapped in humiliation. What's so great about you? So what if you're rich? Her family sold their car and mortgaged their house for a man. She humiliated herself all over campus. Su Wanqing's face went pale. That was the wound she carried deepest inside. But Lin Mo slowly stood up. He was still leaning on a cane. Yet every eye in the room turned toward him. For the first time, in front of so many classmates, he took Su Wanqing's hand. She didn't humiliate herself. Quite the opposite. The luckiest thing that ever happened to me was that she was the one who kicked me that day. Everyone froze. Su Wanqing stared at him blankly too. Lin Mo continued. If it had been certain other people, they probably would have run on the first day. But she stayed. Her parents sold their car. Later they mortgaged their house. She spent everything she had on me. When people insulted her, she didn't leave. When doctors said I might never recover, she didn't leave. Even when she ended up at the police station, her first instinct wasn't to blame me. She was ready to take the responsibility herself. Lin Mo was not speaking loudly, but the living room became quieter and quieter. So you say she should be ashamed? I don't think so. If anyone in this room has earned the right to hold her head high, it's her. Su Wanqing's eyes instantly turned red. She lowered her head and desperately tried to hold back her tears. Gu Qian's expression became ugly. That sounds nice. But who knows? Maybe she's only after your money. Lin Mo smiled. When she was taking care of me, even I didn't know I had money. That one sentence shut down the argument completely. One of Lin Mo's roommates was the first to clap. Well said. The classmates who had genuinely come to the gathering joined in. Su Wanqing finally could not hold back anymore. She cried and laughed at the same time. You're so annoying. Why are you suddenly saying all this? Lin Mo asked quietly. Moved? No. Then why are you crying? Something got in my eye. Lin Mo glanced around the 100 million yuan villa with every window firmly closed. Must be a strong breeze in here. She pinched him hard. Shut up. Gu Qian stood there with nowhere left to hide her embarrassment. What she could not accept most was that the boyfriend she had constantly used to show off was now bending down to pick up his phone before saying in a low voice, I'm sorry. We were out of line today. Then he turned and started walking away. Wait for me. Gu Qian hurried after him. But just as they reached the door, the man stopped. Don't contact me again. She froze. What do you mean? I mean we're done. Why? The man stared at her. Because of one thing you said. My family nearly lost tens of billions of yuan. Do you have any idea who you offended today? My father just told me. Lu Hao of Longhui Bank personally handles things for him. How exactly do you expect me to fight someone like that? Gu Qian's face turned white. But you said you loved me. Love? The man gave a cold laugh. Aren't you the one who's always talking about social circles? Then let me explain something to you now. You just got me thrown out of mine. The car soon drove away. Gu Qian stood alone at the villa entrance. She looked back at the classmates inside. Not one person defended her, because everyone remembered how, year after year, she had used sarcasm, insinuation, and little attacks to target Su Wanqing. In the end, Gu Qian could only cover her face and run away. For once, she finally learned what it felt like to become the person everyone else was watching and laughing at. After the gathering ended, Su Wanqing stood in the courtyard seeing her classmates off. Once everyone had left, she suddenly turned toward Lin Mo. What you said earlier. Which part? You know. She hesitated. Suddenly awkward. You said the luckiest thing that ever happened to you was getting kicked by me. Lin Mo nodded. That's right. Did your brain actually get damaged? Possibly. What normal person thinks getting kicked into the hospital is lucky? Lin Mo looked at her. If I hadn't gone to the hospital, how would I have found out what kind of person you are? What kind of person am I? Stupid. She glared at him. He continued. Really stupid. You could have walked away. Instead, you nearly bankrupted your whole family for me. She fell silent. After a moment, she said softly, I just think people have to take responsibility for what they do. If that kick really had ruined your whole life, then I should have taken care of you for the rest of mine. Lin Mo's heart suddenly beat faster. You said it. Not me. She immediately realized how that sounded. I said if. I still have after effects. Don't I? You can already walk by yourself. I still get dizzy. Whenever I look at you. She stared at him for 2 seconds. Then her face turned red all the way down her neck. You're ridiculous. She turned and ran. Lin Mo stood there leaning on his cane and laughed. The system suddenly chimed. Emotional fluctuation detected in host. Friendly reminder. This system is responsible for making the host rich. It is not responsible for helping the host date women. Lin Mo answered silently. I don't need your help. The system remained quiet for 3 seconds. Additional reminder. While the host was unconscious, his method of pursuing a woman consisted of lying still until she mortgaged her house. Lin Mo's face darkened. Shut up. Time continued to pass. On the 19th day, the swelling in Lin Mo's face had almost completely disappeared. Su Wanqing still came to see him every day, and she began noticing something very strange. He was becoming more handsome every single day. At first, she thought she was imagining it. Then one day, he walked out of the bathroom. She was holding a plate of fruit and simply froze in the doorway. Lin Mo had never been ugly, but after 20 days of the system's modification, his features looked almost as if they had been carefully refined. The lines of his face were sharper. As his body recovered, his posture became taller and stronger. Most striking of all were his eyes. After everything he had been through, there was a completely different presence in them than before. Su Wanqing stared at him for more than 10 seconds. Lin Mo deliberately asked, "Do I look good?" "What?" She immediately looked away. "I was asking about the clothes. Who was looking at you?" "Oh." Lin Mo stepped closer. "Then why is your face red?" "It's hot. The air conditioner is set to 18 degrees Celsius. Maybe I have a fever." Lin Mo reached out to touch her forehead. She jumped backward as if shocked. "Don't touch me. I was checking whether you actually have a fever." "You don't need to." Still carrying the fruit, she fled the room. Lin Mo stood there laughing. At midnight on the 20th day, the system notification finally appeared. Recovery period complete. Host physical condition restored to 100%. Appearance optimization, 20% complete. Physical constitution enhancement complete. Lin Mo clenched his fist. Every trace of the weakness he had felt before was gone. He honestly felt like he could go outside and run 10 kilometers without a problem. At the same time, the system displayed new information. "Congratulations. Host has completed stage 1 of the Coma God of Wealth system. All current wealth has completed legal and compliant allocation. Cash, equities, funds, trusts, real estate, and overseas assets may all be used normally. Final main mission activated." Lin Mo paused. "There's another mission?" "Money can only prove that the host possesses wealth. A true tycoon uses wealth in service of the people he genuinely treasures. Final mission. Without revealing the existence of the system, identify the person the host believes is most worth protecting. Upon completion, the system will permanently retain its wealth management functions." Lin Mo barely hesitated. One person had already appeared in his mind. The girl who had leaned beside his hospital bed, crying and begging him to wake up. The system went silent. It did not immediately confirm anything. Clearly, merely thinking of someone was not enough. It wanted a real choice. Before long, Su Wanqing's birthday arrived. She had originally planned to eat a simple meal with her parents. After the car sale, the mortgage, the hospital, and the police station, she had no interest left in some extravagant birthday celebration. That morning, she specifically warned Lin Mo, "Don't waste money." "Got it." "No luxury cars." "Got it." "No houses." "Got it." "No jewelry." "Got it." She looked at him suspiciously. "Why are you so cooperative today?" Lin Mo put on an innocent expression. "Because I've matured." "I don't believe that for a second." That evening, Lin Mo told her only one thing. "Go change." "Where are we going?" "Dinner." "Just dinner?" "Just dinner." In the end, she changed into a beautiful white dress. Because of everything involving Lin Mo, she had barely dressed up at all during the past few weeks. When she came down after doing her makeup, Lin Mo finally understood why everyone had always called her the campus beauty. She stood on the stairs, looking slightly uncomfortable. "What are you staring at?" "You look beautiful." She pressed her lips together. "That's it?" Lin Mo deliberately nodded. "Pretty good." Her expression turned cold instantly. "Then go eat by yourself." Lin Mo quickly grabbed her hand. "You look incredible." Too late. The most beautiful woman in the world. She finally could not hold back a smile. Smooth talker. The car did not go to a hotel. It went to the airport. The moment she saw the private jet, Su Wanqing stopped in her tracks. "You said we were going to dinner." "We are." "Dinner requires a plane?" "The restaurant's a little far away." "How far?" 3,000 kilometers. She almost laughed from sheer disbelief. "Are you insane?" "The hospital officially confirmed there's nothing wrong with me." She remembered the Stephen team's conclusion, "No disease," and burst out laughing. The plane eventually landed in a coastal city, but the real shock was still ahead. An entire seaside resort had no other guests that day. The moment she stepped out of the car, she saw her parents. Then came Lin Mo's roommates, their teachers, the people who had genuinely cared about them, the nurses who had looked after him in the hospital. Even the 78-year-old medical expert had come. The old man glared the moment he saw Lin Mo. "So you're the kid? You nearly ruined my reputation at the end of my career." Lin Mo hurried over to support him. "You look pretty healthy to me, Professor." "Of course I do. When I checked your pulse, I almost thought everything I'd learned in decades of medicine had been wrong." Everyone burst out laughing. Su Wanqing, however, stood frozen in place, unable to speak. She turned toward Lin Mo. "You brought all of them here?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because this birthday isn't about celebrating the fact that you're 1 year older." Lin Mo walked toward her. "It's because I want everyone to know something. When I was at the lowest point of my life, you didn't give up on me. So on the day you finally start smiling again, the people who truly cared about us should be here to see it." Her eyes were already red. "You're making me cry again. Save some tears for later." "Why?" "There's more." After dinner, a pathway of lights suddenly appeared along the beach, but there were no over-the-top luxury goods, no ridiculous displays of wealth like some of the things Lin Mo had done before. Instead, photographs lined both sides of the path. The first photo was outside the hospital. Su Wanqing was asleep on a bench in the corridor. The second showed her holding a medication bill, looking deeply worried. The third showed her father arriving at the hospital after selling the car. The fourth showed her asleep beside Lin Mo's bed. The fifth showed her crying beside him when he woke up. The sixth showed her pushing his wheelchair as they left the hospital. Photo after photo, they traced the change from the proud, aloof, slightly willful campus beauty she had once been into the girl who was willing to take full responsibility for another person. At last, Su Wanqing covered her mouth and began to cry. "Where did you get these pictures?" "The hospital, classmates, teachers, the internet." "Why did you collect them?" "To remind me." "Of what?" "That no matter how much money I have, it's not the most important thing." Lin Mo walked to the end of the path. There was no diamond waiting there, no sports car, only an ordinary box. Su Wanqing opened it. Inside was a bank card. It was the same card she had once used to pay Lin Mo's medical expenses. Only now, the balance had been restored. Every yuan her parents had raised by selling the car and mortgaging their house had been deposited back, without a single yuan missing. There was also a piece of paper. Only one message was written on it. "The money I owe you, I can repay. The kindness I owe you, I want to spend a lifetime repaying." She looked up. Lin Mo was already standing in front of her, back in the hospital. "You said something. You said that if I never woke up, you'd take care of me for the rest of your life. Well, I'm awake now, so we need to change that sentence. You don't have to take care of me anymore. From now on, I'll take care of you." Tears kept falling from her eyes. Yet somehow, she was smiling too. "Is this your way of confessing your feelings? Do you really have to ask when I'm being this obvious? I want to hear you say it yourself." Everyone around them immediately started cheering him on. "Say it. Come on. Say it." Lin Mo's roommates were the loudest. "Brother, you weren't scared after lying there unconscious for all those days. So why are you getting nervous over a confession?" Lin Mo glared at him. Then he looked back at the girl standing in front of him. "I like you, not because you're beautiful." She immediately frowned. Lin Mo quickly added, "Of course, you are very beautiful." Everyone laughed. Lin Mo continued, "I like the girl who was terrified herself, but still stayed at the hospital. The girl whose friends all told her to leave, but who refused to go. The girl who was willing to put nearly all her family's savings on the line because she believed she had to take responsibility for what she'd done. The girl who went to a police station and would rather take all the blame herself than drag me into it. So, be my girlfriend." She had been crying so hard that even the tip of her nose was red, but she still deliberately asked, "What if you fall into another coma someday?" "Then I won't." "The sis." Lin Mo almost let the word slip out. He immediately corrected himself. "The doctors already said I'm in excellent health." She looked at him suspiciously. "Did you just say something else?" "No. I definitely heard you start a word with sis." "I said thanks." "How does thanks start with sis?" "Regional accent." She laughed despite herself. Then she held out her hand. "Fine. I'll think about it." Lin Mo froze. "You still have to think about it." At last, she got a little revenge of her own and smiled brightly. "You deliberately stayed unconscious that long and made me worry for days. I can take a few minutes to think about this. Can I?" Lin Mo sighed helplessly. Fair enough. 10 seconds. 20 seconds. 1 minute. Lin Mo became more and more nervous. Then she suddenly stepped in front of him, rose onto her toes, and lightly kissed his cheek. I've decided. Yes. Everyone erupted in cheers. Lin Mo had not even recovered from the surprise before she turned around with a red face and ran away. At that exact moment, the system notification sounded. Final mission complete. Host has found the person most worthy of cherishing. System entering permanent wealth management mode. Special reward. Basic health enhancement for host and designated immediate family members. Lin Mo had been smiling, but when he heard the final line, he slowly became quiet. He looked toward the girl in the distance talking with her parents. For the first time, he felt that this reward meant more than another 10 trillion yuan ever could. After Lin Mo and Su Wanqing officially became a couple, the atmosphere on campus changed completely. People who had once mocked her suddenly started trying to get close. Some brought gifts. Some apologized. Some even tried to become part of her social circle. But Su Wanqing did not change just because Lin Mo had become rich. The people who ignored me before can keep ignoring me. The people who sincerely helped me before, I won't forget them. Lin Mo smiled and asked, "That's pretty practical of you." She shook her head. "It's not about being practical. After going through everything once, I finally know who's worth keeping in my life." Lin Mo liked that about her very much. Gu Qian, on the other hand, did not have such an easy time. After her rich boyfriend broke up with her, she tried to expose Lin Mo online. She claimed that he had suddenly become rich through illegal funds and even suggested that the source of his wealth was suspicious. When the accusations first appeared, they did create a huge controversy. What Gu Qian never expected was that the first party to respond would not be Lin Mo. It was Longhui Bank. The bank released a public statement confirming that all of Lin Mo's funds had undergone the strictest compliance reviews. Immediately afterward, multiple global financial institutions also confirmed that his assets were legitimate. Gu Qian still refused to accept it. She kept posting videos online. A college student suddenly has 10 trillion yuan in assets. Does that sound reasonable to anyone? The top liked comment under her video said, "No, it doesn't." She had just started feeling pleased when she read the rest of the comment. But the 10 trillion is sitting in actual banks. If you're mad about it, go deposit 10 trillion yourself. The second most popular comment said, "Girl, even your ex-boyfriend ran away. Why are you still fighting this battle?" The third was even harsher. "Maybe stop provoking him." The last bank manager who mishandled his account got fired by headquarters. The entire comment section turned into one huge joke at her expense. In the end, Gu Qian angrily shut down her account. She thought that would be the end of it. But the school later investigated and discovered that for a long time she had spread rumors about classmates, participated in online harassment, and used anonymous accounts to circulate false claims about Su Wanqing. The university issued serious disciplinary action against her. After that, she finally disappeared completely from Lin Mo and Su Wanqing's lives. Lin Mo did not continue trying to destroy her, because he suddenly realized something. Once a person had nothing left but jealousy to vent from behind anonymous internet accounts, there was no longer any real competition between them. The strongest answer was never to spend every day staring at an enemy. It was to keep moving forward until that person could no longer even see your back. On graduation day, Lin Mo did not do what everyone expected and immediately build some massive #1 company in the world. Instead, he founded a charitable medical fund of a relatively modest size. Its first beneficiaries were families who had fallen into financial crisis after sudden accidents and could not afford medical care. When the news was announced, one of his roommates asked him, "You have 10 trillion yuan, and this is what you do first? You're not buying an island? Maybe later. Private jet? Already have one. Super yacht? I can buy one. Then why start with a medical fund?" Lin Mo looked toward his girlfriend, who was taking graduation photos with her parents nearby. "Because I was lucky. Someone was willing to sell a car and mortgage a house to save me. Not everyone gets that lucky." His roommate fell silent for a few seconds. Then he suddenly threw an arm around Lin Mo's shoulders. "Brother, you're finally starting to act like a decent human being." Lin Mo kicked him away. "Get lost." At the fund's launch ceremony, Lin Mo specifically invited the doctors who had treated him. The bad-tempered neurosurgeon who had nearly performed invasive intracranial monitoring on him came too. The moment he saw Lin Mo, he gritted his teeth. "I still can't figure it out. Why exactly were you unconscious?" Lin Mo answered with a completely serious face. Maybe I was physically weak. The doctor looked at Lin Mo's current body, which was healthier than that of many athletes. Do I look stupid to you? A little. The doctor raised his cane as if he were going to hit him. The 78-year-old expert quickly pulled him back. All right. The important thing is that the patient woke up. Dr. Stephen also joined by video. He said only one thing. No disease. Everyone burst out laughing. The bizarre coma case that had once captivated the entire country ultimately became a medical mystery no one could explain. Only Lin Mo knew the truth. It had never been an illness. It had been the true turning point in the life of an ordinary poor college student. Several years later, Lin Mo rarely paid attention to the exact number of his assets anymore. Once money reached a certain scale, the numbers themselves stopped meaning very much. He invested in technology. He invested in medicine. He acquired companies. He also bought islands, planes, and yachts. Tianxin Capital. The company that the rich young man had once bragged about so proudly. Later ran into cash flow problems. Its chairman personally came to Lin Mo asking for help. The young man who had bowed his head and apologized in the villa years earlier came with his father. When Lin Mo saw him again, all the arrogance from those days was gone. What happened back then was because I was young and immature. I hope you'll give Tianxin another chance. Lin Mo finished reviewing the materials. He did not reject them simply because of the old grudge. The project itself is decent. The man froze. You're willing to save us? I'm not saving you. Lin Mo set the documents down. I'm investing because I believe it can make money. As for what happened in the past, you already apologized. I'm not interested in carrying it around for the rest of my life. The father and son remained silent for a long time. Finally, they both stood and bowed to Lin Mo. At that moment, Lin Mo suddenly understood something else. Once a person became truly powerful, proving people wrong no longer required crushing them underfoot. When people who had once looked down on him now had to sit across from him and wait for him to decide whether their company lived or died, the ending had already been written. As for his love life, it became less and less like that of an impossibly wealthy tycoon. His girlfriend still kept him on a schedule. What time are you coming home? 10. You said that yesterday too. I had a meeting yesterday. And today? Also a meeting. Take a guess whether I believe you. Lin Mo looked at the row of global corporate executives sitting beside him. Every one of them had lowered their head, trying not to laugh. He could only say, 9:30. There was silence on the other end of the phone. 9. Deal. The call ended. Someone in the conference room finally laughed out loud. The chairman of a major corporation. A man decades older than Lin Mo could not help sighing. So even you have someone keeping you in line. Lin Mo glanced at him calmly. Your wife doesn't. The chairman immediately sat up straight. She does. Then there you go. At 8:55 that evening, Lin Mo's car stopped at his front door right on time. Su Wanqing was sitting on the sofa watching television. He hugged her from behind. I'm 5 minutes early. Very impressive. Do I get a reward? No. Then tomorrow I'll come home at 10. She turned around. Try it. Lin Mo immediately changed his answer. Kidding. She could not help laughing. Several years had passed. She was no longer the girl who had panicked and cried helplessly after an accident. She had her own career. She did not join Lin Mo's companies and become some ornamental boss's wife. Instead, she completed her own professional training and later founded an organization devoted to helping young people harmed by campus violence and accidents. Lin Mo offered her funding, but the first time he did, she rejected most of it. I'll accept some startup support. After that, we have to survive on our own. Lin Mo asked, why draw such a clear line between us? She answered seriously, because I want to stand beside you, not behind you. After that, Lin Mo never tried to interfere with her work again. He simply became the strongest support behind her. When someone bullied her, he made sure they learned what regret felt like. When no one was bothering her, he went home and cooked. Of course, the first time he tried cooking, the kitchen nearly became a disaster zone. She stared at the blackened object in the pan for a long time. What is that? Red braised pork. Do you think the pig knew this was going to happen to it after it died? Lin Mo. After that, they hired a chef again. Another year passed. Lin Mo brought her back to the same beach where he had confessed his feelings. The moment she got out of the car, she became suspicious. What are you planning now? A vacation. Every time you say vacation, something happens. Wasn't last time pretty good? Last time was my birthday, and you tricked me onto a private jet. That was a surprise. So what's this? Lin Mo did not answer. He simply took her hand and led her forward. The same path was there. The same photographs. Only now, there were many more of them. Graduation pictures. Travel photos. The first time they tried cooking together. A picture of her asleep over a desk while starting her business. A picture of him secretly texting her during a meeting. Both families celebrating spring festival together. There was even a photo of her throwing a pillow at him after an argument. When she reached that one, she immediately became angry. Who took this picture? Lin Mo tried not to laugh. Security camera. Delete it. Already backed it up 3 times. You're dead. She chased him down the path. They ran all the way to the beach. Then every light suddenly came on. The people who had witnessed their story appeared once again. Her parents, his roommates, their teachers, the doctors, their friends. Everyone was there. She slowly stopped moving. She already knew what was happening. Her eyes instantly filled with tears. You. Lin Mo walked in front of her. This time, there was no system mission. No wealth reward. No one had asked him to do this. He simply took out a ring. You once asked me something. You asked whether we would ever have met if you hadn't kicked me that day. I've thought about it many times. And the answer is, I don't know, but I'm incredibly grateful for that seat. She laughed through her tears. Who proposes by thanking a chair? Then should I thank you for the kick? That's even weirder. Everyone around them laughed. Lin Mo laughed too. Then he looked at her seriously. So let's stop talking about the past. Let's talk about what comes next. From now on, I won't let you sell a car for anyone. I won't let you mortgage a house for anyone. And I won't let you cry alone in a hospital. If something bad really happens again, I'll carry it with you. If something good happens, I'll enjoy it with you. I have more money than I could ever need. But I only get one life. And I want to spend this one with you. Marry me. She was crying so hard she could not speak. But she still did not reach out her hand. Lin Mo started getting nervous. What's wrong? She wiped away her tears. I just remembered something. What? The first time we met. It was because we were fighting over a seat. Right. The second time our relationship changed. I kicked you into the hospital. Right. The third time. You confessed on my birthday. Right. She narrowed her eyes. So this proposal isn't hiding another disaster, is it? Everyone burst out laughing. Lin Mo looked helpless. No. Really? Really? You're not suddenly going into a coma on our wedding day. Lin Mo's face darkened. Absolutely not. The system suddenly displayed a message in his mind. This system can provide a special wedding day coma service. Lin Mo shouted silently. Get lost. Su Wanqing noticed his expression suddenly change. What's wrong? Nothing. Then my answer is yes. Lin Mo froze. What? She held out her hand. I said, I do. Cheers erupted instantly. Lin Mo slipped the ring onto her finger. Then she suddenly leaned close to his ear. But I have one condition. Name it. No pretending to be sick just to fool me ever again. Lin Mo felt guilty for exactly 1 second. Okay, and one more thing. What? There's too much money in the family. And, from now on, I'll manage part of it for you. Lin Mo laughed. You can manage all of it if you want. She immediately shook her head. No. Why not? Because I have no idea how to keep track of 10 trillion yuan. The two of them laughed together. Fireworks rose in the distance. Everyone looked up at the sky. Then one of Lin Mo's roommates suddenly shouted, Kiss her. The others immediately joined in. Su Wanqing's face turned red. Lin Mo did not give her a chance to escape. He lowered his head and kissed her. The system displayed one final notification. Post-life status detected as stable. Financial freedom. Complete. Physical enhancement. Complete. True friends. Confirmed. Lifelong partner. Confirmed. Final rating. SSS. Coma God of Wealth system officially entering silent mode. May the host never again need unconsciousness in order to find good fortune. Lin Mo paused. Then he smiled. That was true. He would never need it again. Once, he had been nothing more than an ordinary college student. He had argued with Su Wanqing over a seat. She had kicked him hard enough to send him flying. To everyone watching, it must have looked like the unluckiest day of his life. But no one could have imagined that from that day forward, he would gain wealth beyond anything ordinary people could comprehend. He would gain friends who were genuinely willing to run to the hospital in slippers in the middle of the night. He would gain a family willing to put nearly everything they owned on the line to save him. And he would gain the girl who had once cried beside his bed while angrily asking why he still would not wake up. Years later, many people asked him, "What was the most successful investment you ever made?" Some guessed it was acquiring Huayuan New Energy. Some guessed it was his investment in next-generation energy technology. Others guessed it was one of the trillion-yuan industries Lin Mo had positioned himself in early. Every time, he shook his head. Then, during one interview, the host finally pressed him. "Then what was it?" Lin Mo looked toward the audience. Su Wanqing was sitting there with a wedding ring on her hand. When she noticed him looking at her, she raised an eyebrow as if warning him that he had better not say anything ridiculous. Lin Mo could not help smiling. Then he looked into the camera and answered, "The best investment I ever made was staying in that hospital bed for a few extra days." The entire audience froze. Only Su Wanqing understood what he meant. Her eyes widened first, then the meaning sank in. Her expression became more dangerous by the second. After the interview, the moment Lin Mo walked off stage, she was already waiting for him backstage. A few extra days? Lin Mo's heart dropped. "Honey, let me explain. So you really could have woken up earlier back then?" "It's a little complicated. My dad sold the car." "I know. Then he mortgaged the house." "I know. I cried every day." "I know that too." Her smile became sweeter and sweeter. "Wonderful." Lin Mo took one step backward. "Honey, what? Violence doesn't solve problems." She rolled one ankle as if warming up for a kick. "That's fine. Isn't that how we solved the problem the first time we met?" Lin Mo turned and ran. "Help!" The staff burst out laughing. She chased after him in high heels. "Get back here." "No! You're dead today. I'm the richest man in the world." The richest man in the world can still sleep on the couch when he gets home. The two of them disappeared down the hallway. The setting sun glowed at the far end of the corridor. In that moment, all the wealth, the system, the status, and the legend surrounding them seemed far less important, because at the end of the story, even the richest man in the world was still afraid of making his wife angry. And Su Wanqing, once the untouchable campus beauty, could still get mad enough to chase him down a hallway over one sentence. But everyone knew something else too. She would never truly kick him down again, and he would never again be willing to leave her crying alone. Their story had begun with one ridiculous argument over a seat. From there, their lives had taken a turn neither of them could ever have imagined. In the end, the girl who had kicked Lin Mo into the hospital became the person he was willing to protect with all his wealth. And the poor student whose condition had once left countless doctors helpless eventually woke up and rose not only to the very top of the financial world, but also found someone who was worth more to him than 10 trillion yuan.